The bully slapped a little black boy in a diner, not knowing his father was the boss of the Mafia. What's a kid like you doing in a place like this, huh? The voice was sharp, thick with mockery. Heads turned inside Marlowe's diner, a small-town roadside spot where the smell of coffee and fried bacon usually drowned out trouble. But today, the trouble walked in wearing a smirk and a leather jacket. At a corner booth sat Malik, a quiet 10-year-old boy with warm brown eyes and a posture far too calm for someone his age. He was alone, a half-finished plate of pancakes in front of him, legs barely reaching the floor. He looked up slowly, eyes locking on the man looming over him. Rick Dalton, the town's self-proclaimed tough guy. Mid-30s, broad shoulders, the kind of man who'd been mean so long it was the only language he knew. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Rick snapped, leaning closer. His breath heavy with whiskey, though it was barely past noon. Malik didn't flinch. He just blinked once, then said quietly, "My dad's come." The diner went still for a sec. Then Rick laughed, loud, ugly, a sound that rattled the silverware. "Your dad? What, he's gonna ground me?" A couple of his drinking buddies at the counter sniffed. The waitress Clara froze mid, her hand trembling slightly as coffee dripped over the rim of a... Everyone in that diner had seen Rick get mean before, but never to a... Malik lowered his eyes to it, murmuring something only he could hear. Rick, what was... Malik looked up again, tone flat, calm as still. "You shouldn't tell me." Rick's smile faltered, just for a... Something in the boy's composure felt wrong, like calm before thunder. "But pride was a dangerous drug." "Cute," he said, force half. "You're a real tough guy, huh?" The bell above the diner door jingled as another customer walked in, but no looked. All eyes stayed on the boy, man, the storm in Slim. Clara set down her tray, voice, "Rick B. He's just a kid." Rick turned hearing. "You got a problem, Clara?" "No." "But I think you might, if you don't." His shadow fell over Malik as he reached out. But his eyes just narrowed slightly, and for the first time, Rick saw something strange. Fear, not anger, but... Then, with one motion, Rick shoved the boy's plate. It shattered against the floor, pancakes and syrup splattering across aisles. Gasps out. Clara screamed, "Rick!" Rick's voice to her. "Maybe next time, kid, you learn." Malik stared at the mess on the floor and looked up, his voice barely a whisper. "You shun that." The words hung in the air like an omen, and that's when the diner opened again. The bell above the door jingled softly, polite. A man stepped inside, tall, dressed in a black tailored coat that didn't belong in a small diner. His gait was steady, each step deliberate. His presence alone changed the air. The chatter instantly. Even the jukebox in the corner seemed her. He removed his gloves with precision, eyes sweeping across the room until they hit the booth. "Malik," he said, his tone smooth, low, and cold as steel. "All right, son?" Nodded once. "I'm fine, Dad." Mid-turn. Merk faltered. "That's your dad?" And looked at him now. And for the first time in Rick's life, he felt confidence flicker. The eyes were calm, too calm. Not the eyes of a man who might be dangerous, one who was. Clara to her mouth. He recognized him. Everyone did, in whispers and rumors. Dominic Kane, the reclusive businessman whose family owned half the state. Except nobody called him Dominic when they knew what he really was. He was Don Kane, the man the whispered about. The Black Boss Mafia. Rick swallowed hard but forced a laugh, masked ear with bravado. "Hey man, know the kid was yours? We were just talking." Don didn't move closer yet. He took a seat across from Malik instead, his move methodical. He brushed a speck of syrup from his sleeve, then spoke, still soft. "Did this man touch?" Malik hesitated. "He broke my plate." Dominic's gaze shifted back to Rick. "You broke my son's plate." He raised both hands quickly. "It's just a plate." "No harm done." Dominic leaned back, expression unreadable. Clara stepped forward, whispering urgently, "Mr. Kane, please don't call Kane. The boy's fine." He smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "I don't cause Sarah, I correct them." The room went dead silent. Outside, a black SUV pulled up beside her. Then another. The hum of engines filled the quiet as men in dark coats stepped out, forming a silent round the parking lot. Rick's counter turned pale. One of them whispered, "Rick, we need to go." But Rick was frozen, Dominic slowly buttoning his coat. "You see, my boy here was born into a world that doesn't forgive disrespect. I've tried to restraint. Mercy." He took a step closer, his shaking softly on the tile. "But mercy," he said, "works when the other man's fear." Rick stammered. Look, I didn't mean no. It was a mistake, okay? Dominic stopped inches from him. The light from the window caught the silver ring on his finger, engraved with a black crest. He whispered, "The mistakes are all you made." From outside, one of the guards entered the dock quietly, leaned in close, heading into Dominic's ear. Dominic's jaw tightened. Then, to everyone's surprise, he smiled slightly. "Rick Dalton," he said, as if tasting the busy. Rick blinked. "What?" Nick's voice was smooth, dangerous. "You've been running money through your repair shop. You wash funds from the local syndicate. You thought no one noticed?" Rick's heart thudded painfully. "How the hell do you?" Dominic stepped closer, low until only Rick could hear. "You've been using my city to hide your filth, and now you lay a hand on my blood?" Rick stumbled backward, his bravado shattered. "I didn't know, I swear." Dominic's voice hardened. "God won't help you." Clara tried again, ding. "Please, he's just a— Don't do this in front of your boy." Dominic turned his head toward her, and for a brief moment, her flickered gaze. "Clara," he said quietly. "That's exactly why." Malik watched silent, his expression unreadable. His hand gripped the table tightly. Dominic signaled with 2 fingers. They didn't move toward Rick. Instead, they stepped outside, forming a wall at the windows, warning to anyone watching. Rick looked at Rick one last time. "You 1 hour to disappear. Sell your shop. Leave this town. If my son ever hears your name again, I'll make sure." Rick's lips trembled. "You can't just—" leaned in, his voice barely a whisper. "I already did." Rick's legs gave out. He stumbled out of the diner, gasping for air, trailing behind him like ghosts. The diner remained a long time after they left. Dominic sat back down, poured himself coffee from the pot Clara had touched. His comber cracked. Malik looked at him quietly. "You didn't have to scare him that much, Dad." Dominic smiled, setting the cup down. "Didn't I? You always say fear isn't the same as respect." Dominic, low and tired. "True, but it's the only language people understand." Malik tilted head. That answer. The smile faded a bit. "Your mother isn't here, son." Silence. The weight of that sentence filled the space between them. Clara, still shaken, approached slowly. "Gone, Mr. Kane. Have to bring your men." Dominic looked up. "I don't bring them," he said quietly. "Follow." Malik's cold pancakes. "Go home now?" Dominic looked out the window. V's still black and white. "Yes, son. Let's go home." He rose, placed 100 on the table, to Clara. "For the trouble." At left, Clara noticed something strange, a folded napkin under Malik's cup. Looked up and found a note written handwriting. "Thank you for being kind." Below, a simple drawing of a sun and mile. The storm hit the city by nightfall. Rain lashed against the windows of the Kane estate. Sprawling mansion perched high above the coast. Hitting stories most dare to imagine. Inside, Dominic stood by the window office, looking out over the darkened skyline. A half-empty glass sat untouched beside. A knock came. "Come in," he said. The door opened, and one of his lieutenants inside, his broad-shouldered, quiet. "You let him go," Marcus said. Dominic didn't sound. "For now. You sure that's what?" Dominic's gaze had fixed on the rain. "Fear will make him run, and when like him run, they talk." "I want a lessons." Marcus nodded. "And the boy?" Dominic's voice. "He saw enough today." Marcus hesitated. "Asking questions, isn't he?" "Always," Dominic murmured. "Just like his mother." He finally turned from, the faint glow reflecting in his eyes. "Keep an eye on the diner. Something tells me this isn't over." Across town, in a cheap motel, Rick Dalton sat on the edge of a bed, hanking. His phone and again. Finally, he answered. "Yeah?" A voice on the other end, deep, unfamiliar, spoke with slow precision. "You made a mess, Rick." Rick swallowed. "I didn't know who the kid was, I swear." "That doesn't matter now. You embarrassed him. The Dawn. Do you understand what that means?" Rick's breath hitched. "I'll leave town. Tonight, I'll—" "You won't," the voice interrupted. "He gave you an hour. That means we have 59 minutes to fix this before he does." Rick frowned, confused. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, a chilling laugh. "Let's just say, not everyone in that family wants the Don's boy protect." The call ended. Rick sat frozen, staring at the phone screen as the rain hammered harder against the window. "He's just a kid. What threat could he be?" The voice echoed through the static-filled phone line. Rick Dalton sat trembling in the dim motel room, his clothes damp from the rain. The anonymous caller's voice had a rough, confident tone. "Someone used to giving orders. You really don't know what kind of storm you walked into, do you?" The man continued. Rick swallowed. Look, I didn't mean to. I'll apologize to the Don myself. A short, cruel laugh cut it. Apologies don't work with men like Dominic Kane. They work with Rick Frank. Then who the hell are you? The line went quiet for a few seconds. Then the voice, I'm the reason Dominic shouldn't sleep so. And the call. Rick stared at the screen, heart. He had no idea what, but something in that voice told him he had just been dragged deeper than he ever wanted. Lightning flashed over the coastal hills as Dominic Kane stood in his office, staring at a photo on. It was of his wife, a woman whose smile could soften even the coldest corner of him. She had passed away 2 years ago under mysterious circumstances, a car accident, but Dominic had never truly. Behind him, Marcus entered slowly. Sir, Marcan, we traced the call that came to the diner before your arrival. It was from Erner. Someone tipped Dalton off the coming. Dominic turned slowly, eyes. Marcus numbly. It looked away. Dominic poured himself a drink, swirling the amber liquid. So they're testing me, using a child to provoke response. My son, low sip. That means they want to know if I will bleed. Marcus shifty. You think this is about succession? The council? Dominic smiled faintly, but there was warmth in it. Everything is about Marcus. Family. Upstairs, Malik sat on his bed, staring at the rain slide on the window. His tablet lay forgotten beside him, replaced by thoughts too big for a tenry. He replayed the diner in his mind, the fear in his eyes. His father calm control, the SU outside. His father had said mercy only works when the other knows fear. But Malik wasn't sure lesson. He wanted to understand why people listened like that. Why grown men looked at him the way they distant, untouchable, deadly. The door creaked open. It was Aunt Renee, Dominic's sister, a strong, elegant woman with sharp eyes and a soft smile. She leaked. Hey, champ, she said gently. You okay? Malik nodded. Just thinking about what happened. Hesitated. It scared that man. A lot. Renee sat beside him. Sometimes need to be scared. But Mom said makes people stupid. Renee sadly. Mom was usually right. Silence for a moment. Malik leaned into her son's voice small. Aunt Renee, did Mom die in a car crash? Renee froze a second too long. Malik noticed. Then she said, honey. Why? Dad never talks about it, not even when I ask. Renee's gaze darkened. Some pain does away when you talk. It just changes shape. Malik frowned. Dad's pain take. Before her, the lights then went out. The estate plunged into darkness. Security alarms blared faintly past halls. From outside, headlights flashed, brief, silent. Renee stood instantly. Stay here, she whispered, grabbing her phone. Was already on his. What's happening? Probably a surge, she lied. Pulse said otherwise. Downstairs, Dominic's voice worked through the intercom. Marcus, perimeter check, now. Renee pushed Malik closet. Get inside. Don't move until I say so. But now, Malik! The boy slipping inside the closet. The door closing just as heavy boots echoed down the hallway. From his narrow crack of view, Malik saw 2 armed men silently toward his faces masked, movements sharp and practiced, his father's security. Renee stepped into her tone. You're trespassing. Turn around and walk out before you regret it. One man smirked beneath his mask. We're just to deliver a message from a friend. Then he raised his gun. The next seconds were chaos, gunfighting, glass shattering. Renee dove behind the dresser, returning fire from an she'd pulled from her boot. Malik trembled inside the closet. Heart loud, he thought. Then, silence. Thud. Footsteps. A door creaked open and fell across the closet. Malik held his breath, every muscle frozen, and crouched inches from the door, whispering something under his breath. Then suddenly, a gunshot cracked through and the shadow fell. The closet door swung open, revealing Dominic's gun still in his hand. He knelt, pulling Malik to his arms. You're safe. I've you. Malik's voice was trembling. Aunt Renee. Dominic turned. Renee was on the floor, blood on her shoulder, but alive, grimacing. Jeez, she said through clenched. But they knew the layout, Dom, exactly where Malik sleeps. Dominic's face hardened, darkening like thundercloud. Then it's some, he said quietly. Someone who's forgotten who I am. An hour later, the mansion was with Dominic's private security. The bodies were gone, the blood clean air was heavy with tension. Mark of the fireplace, tight. Men weren't local. Eastern Bloc. Mercenaries. Someone funded this. Dominic sat across from his expression cold and analytical. They were hired to scare me, not kill. They could have taken Malik. They didn't. He frowned. Soul. Nick's voice dropped. To warn me. Or to test how I'd go to protect my son. He looked up. That means it's someone close. Thinks they can play game. Don hesitated. You think it's one of Dominic? Who? Later that night, Edix had left and the house was quiet again. Malik sat on the stairs, at the faint blood stain on the rug. Dominic appeared him silently. You should be asleep. He didn't look up. Me, didn't they? Dominic didn't answer. Dad, Malik said quietly, you always told me the world listens to power. But what if power makes wrong people listen? Dom froze. His son's were sharp. He knelt beside him. You're smart. Smarter than I was at your... But some truths are too heavy to carry yet. Malik turned his head, meeting his father's gaze. Of their tats, Dominic's breath hitched. Wait, on his wrist, Malik said softly. A black serpent bone tail. Blood went cold. Knew that symbol. It belonged to Laka, a breakaway faction from his own syndicate. This underground group led by Silvio, Dominic's right-hand man, to be behind his wife's death. Dominic stood alone in the family chapel. Candles flickered, casting long shadows on the floor. He stared up at a lantern. They came, he murmured. For our son. He clenched his fists, grief boiling beneath exterior. Marcus entered quiet. We traded the money that paid the mercenaries. Offshore accounts, same network tied to Moretti. Dominic's voice whisper. Then it's Marcus nodded. Do you want me to out? Turned, his expression unreadable. No, not yet. If I kill him now, the council will think I'm cleaning old blood. I need him to himself first, Marcus frowned. He already did. Coming after Malik. Dominic started. Then I'll make him regret not finishing. Picked up his phone, dialing an... Get car. We're going to New Orleans. The next morning, the Kane convoy moved quietly at dawn. 3 SUVs, black and unmarked, rode the coastal estate and merged into the empty highway. Malik watched his bedroom window as they disappeared down the road. He didn't know where he was going, but he could feel the storm that followed him. Downstairs appeared, arm in a sling. He didn't tell you goodbye? Shook his head. He never does, replied. Because if he looks back, leave. Into her. Will he okay? She hesitated. He's Dominic. He survived worse, but her voice lacked conviction. The French quarter uneasily under the hum of neon lights and distant thunder. Inside a high-rise penthouse, Silvio Moretti poured a glass of wine, smirking as the city glowed beneath him. A bodyguard approached. The Kane estate survived the hit. Silvio didn't flinch. I expected that. Dominic always did have good timing. He raised his glass. But the message was sent. The guard frowned. What message? Silvio's smirk widened. That I can touch what he loves whenever I want. Then he turned toward the window, watching the storm roll in. Dominic will come for me, he said softly. And when he does, he'll find out what really happened to his precious Elena. Lightning flashed, illuminating the serpent tattoo on his wrist. Rain sheeted across New Orleans like silver threads, washing neon from the street. Inside a black sedan idling beneath a cracked streetlight, Dominic Kane watched the glow of the Moretti Tower flicker in the distance. Third floor, corner suite, Marcus murmured, scanning the digital feed. He's there, alone, or pretending. Dominic slid the pistol's magazine into place, eyes cold. He wants me to... So I will, Marcus hesitated. Sir, if this goes... It already went bad the day he touched my... Dominic cut in quiet. Tonight it ends. Thunder rolled across the coast as Malik stared at the... His father had been gone for a... Aunt Renee paced the hall on the phone with the guards, voiced. Malik's tablet... A text from an unknown number blinked. You want to see your dad? Come to 121 Burbeat. Come alone, he hesitated, fingering. He knew, but he also knew what fear sounded, and it sounded just like sun. He slipped on his hoodie and disappeared in. The elevator doors slid open with a metallic. Dominic stepped out, every move silent. The suite doors. He entered. Then, in the center of the room stood Silvio Moretti, wine glass in hand, smiling like, Well, Silvio called, the great Dominic Kane graces my I was starting to think you'd forgotten how to lead, Dominic's voice low. You tried to hurt. I warned you, Silvio said, circling him. You built an empire on fear and me. But fear turns and loyalties. You of all people know that. Dominic's flexed. You killed Elena, sickled. Killed Dominic. I free. For the first time, Dominic's mouth cracked. You say? She found out about Project Serpent, Silvio said, littering. The council's literment. She threatened to expose us all, included. You sent her away for her safety, remember? Crash. Shoulder. Convenient. Dominic's knuckles whitens gun. Lied to me. I gave you peace, snapped. And now I'll take what's left. Your heir. He pressed on the table. A hidden flickered to life. Malik, bound unharmed. Dominic. Where is he? Smiled. Where your empire began and end. Malik sat on a chair, ropes cut to his wrists. Around him men moved in the shadows. The tattoo of the black serpent glittered on their wrists. Then headlight through the dark. The roar of an engine side whisper. Dominic stepped out, rain soaking his coat, eyes burning with something unbreakable. Silvio emerged from the shadow in hand. No backup? Spread his arms. Didn't need any. A fan filled the air. Then, lights exploded. Confusion. Marcus and the Kane men poured in every entrance. Dominic moved through chaos through fire, reaching Malik's chair as Silvio retreated a catwalk above. Malik shouted. Dominic cut the rope. Stay down! A gunshot rang. The bullet grazed Dominic's arm, blood streaming against the... He looked up. Silvio stood on the aiming again. Dominic's voice thundered. You took my wife. You touched my son. Now you answer to me. They stared across the distance. Two ghosts by the same empire. Silvio fired. Dominic dodged, the barking against metal. Turned fire once. A single echo tore through the storm. Silvio stumbled, the serpent tattoo visible on his hand as he fell back shadows below. Silence followed. Only rain, Marcus shouted from the floor. He's down! Dominic holstered and turned to his son. Malik's eyes were wide, not from fear but from understanding. You didn't have... Malik stopped. Dominic shook his head. Some debts can't be left unpaid. He pulled the boy close, but it's over now. Dawn crept across the pale and quiet. News whispered of explosions in the warehouse district, of unidentified men and black SUVs before police arrived. At the estate, Malik sat his father on the balcony. Will they come again? He asked. Nick looked at the horizon. They always come again. Now they'll think twice. Malik studied him. Wanted to end all this, didn't she? Dominic's voice softened. She wanted a world where you could whine her and just be a kid. Malik looked down. Then day I can finish what she started. Dominic turned to him, pride entangled in his eyes. When that's, you'll have my... But until then, and on Malik's shoulder, you'll have my protection. Later that evening, Marcus entered a sealed envelope. This came from a private channel. Dominic opened it. Inside was a single photo. Elena, alive. Stand a man whose face was blurred, but on his wrist gleamed black serpent too. Bullet. One handwritten line, real serpent still breathes. Dominic stared at the photo, the glass key trembling slightly in his hand. Outside, thunder rumbled again over the oak. He whispered, off. Then it's not over. The camera would pull back through the window, silhouetted against lightning, father and son inside, aware that the real enemy is still watching.